What's up, everybody? Hope everybody's doing well. We'll just kind of open it up for questions here. Um, yeah, let you guys ask some questions if you have some.
You're 2 weeks in. What have you learned about your team so far? And can you give us updates on Kyle and Justin?
Yeah, Kyle and Justin, they're just a little bit banged up. Just a little bit banged up right now. I don't think either one's kind of a long-term injury by any stretch. They're just a little bit banged up, and we've given them a couple days to recover. I don't want to get specific about what they're, but I don't see it as a long-term thing.
You're 2 weeks in. I know you have a little bit of a break here. I know this is the end of a long stretch for you, but what have you learned about your team as you hit the season mark?
It's been a fun group to work with. I think we have a lot of things to figure out, and we have a really challenging early schedule, starting with a really good Akron team. So, we've got these next couple weeks to try to figure out what our rotation is going to look like. But I think overriding, this team has competed really hard. I like our group's leadership. As we've talked about, we got to figure some things out on our perimeter. And ultimately what our rotation is going to look like. But I really think this will be a year where the rotation's pretty fluid.
So do you anticipate Kyle Young kind of having to be held out kind of the same way last year? He didn't always practice all that often because of his ongoing leg injuries and things like that.
Yeah, it was more 2 years ago that we did that. But last year, you're right. We kept him out. He probably practiced more last year than the year prior. I think right now we're just kind of playing that day by day, honestly. I think right now I'm not ready to make any kind of final decisions on what his practice is going to look like on a day-to-day basis.
Coach, last year Eugene Brown said he kind of knew his role was to come in, play hard defense, crash the boards. Does he seem like a guy that could have a little bit more responsibilities, more of a leash this year in terms of what he can do maybe on offense?
Well, I think he's got to earn all that, and I think he's always seen himself as a guy who, I think we're somehow, and I know you didn't intend it, but somehow the question sounds like what he said and what he did last year wasn't valuable in that role. It's pretty important. We need a guy right now who's going to be a versatile perimeter defender. That's always been kind of who he's been at his core. I think offensively, his game is growing, and I'm excited to see it continue to grow. But it begins with him in terms of how good can he be defensively and how versatile is. That's kind of how he's always been as a player.
Chris, you mentioned Indianapolis. A year ago, obviously, this was a team that was driven by scoring and
Yeah.
the best in the country scoring. And you kind of predict this year will be a little different. It'll be more of a defensive style. Can you walk us through developing a team with that mentality, understanding it starts at that end? And I know you're the defensive.
I'm sorry. Hey, Nettie, can we swing him out of here? Thank you. Sorry about that. That's all right.
You mentioned how you
Yeah.
this team, you think it might swing defensive first. Can you explain a little bit about developing that mentality when you start now?
Yeah.
It's not always the sexiest thing, but
Yeah.
sometimes that's what leads to the result.
It's a good question. It really has to be our identity this year, and I think my reason for saying that is, last year we played a little bit smaller, although we weren't necessarily small in the perimeter with Justice Suing. We were actually big, but on the interior we were just really hard to guard, particularly when you had Kyle and EJ in there together. And I just, as we're going to play a little bit bigger this year at those spots, just generally, I don't anticipate us having the fourth best offense in the country. Be great. Would love it. I'll take it right now. But I think that might be difficult to achieve just because we'll play in maybe a little bit more traditional, which we hope might bring a little more balance. To your point, maybe a little bit more balance. I've always said if you can be top 25. A couple years ago when we went to the Sweet 16, we were around top 25 in offense and defensive efficiency. Actually, I think we were a little bit worse defensively, but we want a little bit more balance there. That gives you a chance to, I think, be your best. I think it might, with the way our rosters is right now, I think we can be better defensively. We need to. And yet at the same time, I still think we can be a really good offensive team.
And on that note, Dwayne departing, is there somebody who's new to the program who's just getting started here now who you could forecast as being someone to contribute some of those points and give you some opportunities there?
I think it's still evolving, both with CJ's ability to kind of run our team last year and Dwayne's ability to go get whatever he got, 32, and against Michigan in the Big Ten tournament semifinal, whatever that was. I'm not sure right now that I would say, okay, yep, this guy we could say can go get 32 in a Big Ten semifinal game. I think that's still evolving. I think we've got some answers there, but I think it could be more of a collective, a couple guys. And it really would be unfair. Dwayne was going into his third year in our program, and scoring was kind of what he did, and he really grew as the year went on, honestly. So I don't know right now. I think you'll see Justice Suing take another step offensively, so I would point to him. I think he can definitely take another step offensively. And then I think we have a collection of guys that will help carry that load.
Chris, what kind of growth have you seen from Zedkey going into his second year?
Well, he's in a little bit better shape, and probably because I've been on his rear end for 11 practices now. But he's gotten in a little bit better shape. I think that's important for him. Really important for him. He's got a little bit better understanding. He's honestly practiced better with each kind of passing day. I thought the early part of the practice season he wasn't great. He's gotten better, kind of, which is good to see. But I would say I'd point to conditioning. He's in a little bit better shape, and I think he just has an overall better understanding. We're still trying to advance in his game and evolve his game. He's still got to get more skilled in areas, but that would probably be the first thing I think of.
Jimmy was a guy who, he was having his best game last year, and then he gets hurt. What have you kind of seen from him in terms of how he's bounced back and what kind of role he could potentially play this year?
Yeah, it's too early to really talk about a specific role with a guy, and as you guys know, I think it's going to be a competitive rotation, and but Jimmy can really run a team, and he can play off the ball some and settle you some offensively. So he's a veteran guy who can make shots and run a team and score the ball when he's playing off the ball. But I think we're still figuring out what guys' specific roles are going to be. We have a lot of guys, and I'm not going to be able to play everybody. So those things are still evolving.
You touched on it a second ago. You made a couple of tough baskets here just in the 4 minutes we were watching.
You lost weight, Steve?
What's that?
You lost weight?
Just a little bit.
Okay.
Not a lot. I'm not in any kind of shape. I'm not in Zedkey shape, I can tell you that.
You look good, Steve.
I'm not even in that. But Justice, without Dwayne, is he a guy at the end of possessions where the ball could end up in his hands and he can produce for you?
Justice?
Yeah, Justice.
Yeah. Or you said Justice?
Justice.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think Justice is a guy who you'll see in those moments more. If you remember in the, I believe it was it the Illinois game where we were down 3, he had the ball in his hands late. I think it was regulation. Yeah, it was regulation in the Big Ten championship game. The ball was in his hands at that moment, Steve, and he made a play, got an and one, scored. So I do think you could see the ball in his hands as a primary playmaker in some of those situations for sure.
I know you said roles are still evolving and rotation will change and things like that, but your post-play, we know EJ, we know Kyle, Joey obviously coming in. Just how have you seen that kind of evolve here the first few weeks, and what do you like, what do you not like maybe about those guys down low right now?
I think everybody's got some things that they have to get better in. I do like our depth, and I like when we're playing hard, our ability to rebound it with Joey and Zed at the 5, and our physicality with EJ at the 4. I think defensively there's some concerns there with guys that maybe are a little bit more, maybe not quite the same mobility. We've got to get better in our ball screen coverages with that and our post defense in general. But I like the fact that we've been able to rebound it, and hopefully the depth can provide a physicality on the interior that I think is going to be important. And I think all those guys, obviously, We know what EJ and Kyle can do, but we're going to need important stuff from Zed and Joey.
We saw Justice handling the ball, and I know obviously he did that at times last year. Do you envision him having a backcourt role in some capacity this year, or would you like to keep him more on the wing?
I think it'll be both, Adam. I think it'll be both. I think he'll clearly play both positions, a primary ball handling role, whether he's playing the wing spot or even potentially a backup point guard role, some for sure, or a point guard role at some point. But yeah, I think the ball will be in his hands a good fair amount.
Here's the inclusion as a captain. As a program, you haven't named captains officially in at least a decade. Why was that important to do this year, and what can you say about the four guys that you picked?
Yeah, we've just kept it internal. We've just not made it a public thing. It's been important to our players. We have a captain's dinner every year. Obviously, I love what football has done. I think it's a great honor for those guys. They were voted on by their teammates. We could have capped it at 3, but we have a little bit of a bigger rotation roster this year. So I felt like with how old some of those guys are, but it's a heavy responsibility too, and they have to. I mean, there is a real responsibility to being a captain, and it's an honor to be named. But it's a heavy load at times, and I'm anxious to see those guys embrace that and take ownership in it, because there's anytime you're given something like that, there's something required from you, and I think the challenge for those guys is, when you're a young player, all you really think about is yourself. You think about, can I get through this practice? How am I playing? You hope as you get older, and certainly as you're named a captain, your perspective changes, and you think about how are we playing as opposed to how am I playing. They're still going to be, obviously, they're still going to be motivated to perform at their highest level. But that perspective changes and should change when you become a captain. And I'm excited to see those guys own that.
How much has EJ changed as a leader from last year entering the season to now this year?
Yeah, EJ's more vocal. He's been really consistent in his work every day. He's, I think, taking great ownership and being a guy who is raising the energy in the room every time he's out there, and that's been a real noticeable difference since certainly his freshman year.
Chris, you mentioned the amount of experience that you have, and I'm curious, does that bring younger guys along faster? Like when you have the amount of experience that you do they set an expectation?
I think it's possible. You can ask me in a few months, and I'll give you a better answer. I don't know. I think if you have good leadership, it has a potential to bring young guys along. But it's an interesting question. I think I'll know more here in a few months.
The amount of transfers that you've brought into, the amount of experience that you've brought in just from other programs, I'm curious about what makes Ohio State, what makes this coaching staff, this atmosphere kind of conducive to transfers, to bringing in people later in their career with that experience?
Well, I don't think it's really unique to us. I mean, Baylor, 4 of their 5 starters were transfers. 7, I think, of 6 or 7 of their rotation were transfers. So I'd like to say it's something unique and special about us, but in reality, it's just the world we live in right now, and in the nature of our game. So it's not like I suppose if you're bringing in 12 transfers a year, that's probably an outlier. Or if you're losing 12 kids to transfer, that's an outlier. But it's just kind of part of our game right now. We've really tried to be selective about the ones we take. Do they fit our culture and our environment? That's been really important to us. I think we'll always, be consistent with recruiting high school kids for sure. But we feel good about the help that we've gotten from transfers.
What conversations have you had with your team throughout the summer and the preseason about vaccination? How do you address that with your team? Do you have like a team vaccination rate?
Yeah, I stay away from those conversations outside. I'm really led by our medical staff and our training staff. That's that's their conversation. We've certainly had the whole gamut of some guys being maybe concerned or more questions, and then other guys being maybe open to it. But we're 100% vaccinated.
EJ, when you made the decision to come back to Ohio State, you kind of told me after the Big Ten that he said work on his outside game, his three-point shooting. Have you seen an improvement in that?
Yeah, you know, I really have with EJ seen an improvement in his shooting, and he understands. You know, it's a challenge for you when you go through that process because he can't totally get away from what made him a first-team All-League guy or a really, really good player, and has always made him a really good player, which has been his ability to impact the game kind of inside and out. But the biggest thing, I think, has been growing in his defensive versatility in terms of helping him at the next level. Can we help him grow in his defensive versatility, and then can he continue to shoot the ball at a good clip? You saw him make one there late off a really nice play by Malachi. So I think for him, he's really worked at it. He's made real strides, and he shot it well last year. Now, granted, he had a bigger, slower guy on him last year than what he's going to have consistently on him this year. But I still think he gets it off pretty quick, and he's made real improvement there.
What does the next couple of weeks look like as you get closer and closer to the start of the season, assuming you start out conditioning and building some basics? But where do you want to take the next 2 weeks or so until you're actually
Yeah, we've got a lot more of install in general, a lot more install. You know, like most coaches, I have a practice checklist that you try to follow where you just got a lot of installation that you have to get in. We have to continue to build a conditioning base. And we need to play. We need to play so that we can learn about our team as much as possible. Because I think that's going to be a part of this year. And again, did I overschedule here early with some of these challenging games? We'll see with kind of a newer backcourt. But I think we'll have to figure some things out a little bit on the fly as we get into some of these early, really challenging games. Just because of a newer backcourt. But they have this weekend off. It's fall break, so we gave them this weekend off. That's why we wanted to bring in officials, and that's why we wanted to bring in you fine people. We wanted you to have see a little bit of practice here. So they'll have a couple days off, and we'll get back Monday. We scrimmage next weekend. I'm not allowed to disclose, I don't think, who it is. But those things tend to get out, so you'll figure out who we're playing and when we're playing, I'm sure.
If I could steer one last thing, more recruiting side of things, whether it's Malachi, Michi, Kalen, all Ohio guys, and then you go back to Justin and Kyle, and then even with Bowen,
Yeah.
But you've made a consistent effort with recruiting Ohio guys, recruiting local guys. What has made that a possibility, and why has that been such a priority for you guys?
We've really tried to commit to really covering our state and recruiting our state absolutely as hard as we can. And I've always said, we're not going to get every good player in the state, but we feel like we're going to, if we recruit them and really communicate with them about what our vision is for them, we'll get a number of them, because this is a tremendous place, and I think we've really established a level of winning. We're one of 4 high major teams to have 4 straight 20-win seasons. So there is an element of, okay, we've established a level of winning. We're hungry to take, obviously, the next step. But I think kids see that in the state, and they understand the opportunities that they have here. And it's really important. I've said it. Ohio is a terrific state, both in AAU and high school, for really good players. And listen, there are some years, as you well know, where it's deeper or just more talented. It's cyclical. We understand that. And when it has the kind of depth and talent, you know, that's really important to us. And obviously a guy like, you know, Malachi was really important. I'm excited about his growth and development. But all the, you know, Kyle, right when we got here, was really critical. You know, having him a part of our program for what seems like 8 or 9 years now. Any other questions?